morning
Legend.
to our buddy Tyler Yaremchuk, who's up late at night. He's up early in the morning with us. He's got a big old grin on his face. For good reason. And Tyler, I started the show by saying I wanted to wait to apologize to the Edmonton Oilers, to the fans, to everything, because I underestimated your team. I wanted them to win. I said it from the get-go. I wanted the Oilers to win. I wanted McDavid, legacy, all that stuff, but I didn't see how it would be possible against the Dallas Stars. But we've all now been proven wrong, and badly wrong, because this series didn't even make it to 7 games.
The way the Oilers flipped it around and kind of flipped a switch in that series is what's the most stunning thing to me. And to be fair, they kind of did it against Vancouver too. And this is a team that's now they've completed 7 playoff series in the last 3 years, and it's largely the same group for all of them. There's not a lot of new faces in here. And I just sit here and think it's a team that's kind of done the old cliche. They had to learn how to lose so they could learn how to win, right? And I think
a lot of losing.
it was a lot of losing, man. But against Vancouver, they go down 3-2, and they just kind of flip the switch, and we're like, we're not taking this shit anymore. And they played unreal in game 6 and 7 of that series, and they go down 2-1 to Dallas, and it kind of felt like, at least in the next 2 games, maybe not so much last night, that they flipped the switch and said, we're not going to lose anymore. We're sick of it. And they did exactly that. They played their best hockey games in games 4 and game 5, and then last night they went up 2-0, and almost in this weird anti-Oilers approach, they were like, let's trap it up, right? We're good. We only need 2 to win. Perfect. And they played like they knew they only needed 2 to win. It was really impressive.
Tyler, let me ask you this, though. We're not that far removed from the conversation of who's going to play, Skinner or Pickard. Which one are we going with? And you look at Skinner's numbers over this series, a .923 save percentage and a 1.91 goals against average. Is Stuart Skinner now beloved in Edmonton? What is the vibe around him after the series?
So I don't think he was ever like not beloved in a weird way. I think everyone felt for him. And everyone always really wanted the storyline of local Edmonton boy is finally the answer for the Oilers between the pipes. And what's interesting with Skinner too is I do always think the save percentage number
it's skewed. Yeah. It's skewed for sure.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Like there was the game in this series, really the only bad game by his save percentage was the game he had an 8-10. And even in that one, he made some massive saves to keep that one close. That was all about the team in front of him. So yeah, he is beloved in Edmonton. He's absolutely back as well. And I don't think he's the guy who you look at and go like, oh boy, are the wheels going to fall off again or something like that? Because he had a 3-month stretch during the regular season where he was top 5, top 3, top 2 in a lot of major statistical categories, where he, during that 16-game winning streak, like go look at how the Oilers were winning those games. Go look at the scores in those hockey games. That really wasn't a lot of 6-5, 8-4. Like the offense exploded for a full month and they won a ton of hockey games. That was a lot of 3-2, 2-1 kind of efforts, and Stuart Skinner was a big reason why. So he's absolutely back right now, and it's great to see. And last night, McDavid said it, Skinner stole one.
Yeah. Well, and look, I think that, Connor McDavid has done a really nice job with the PR in the conference finals. I mean, when it came to stepping up for Darnell Nurse, look at how Darnell Nurse played after that. I mean, you cannot tell me there's no correlation between those two things. You got a guy who was a disaster for the first part of a series. His captain publicly backs him. It goes viral across every TV platform, every social media platform, every digital platform, forget it. And then Darnell Nurse turns around and he simplifies his game. He goes to the basics, and look, he's really effective in the rest of the series. Yeah, like he has that first period, which wasn't a great period, but then the team turned around with all that Connor McDavid sort of PR. And look, Stuart Skinner looked very in control last night. I mean, he gave you the sense on your couch, at home, and I know you were in the building, that I'm good. I'm going to stop these pucks. Like he looked like Jeremy Swayman looked earlier this year. He looked like Igor Shesterkin has looked at times in these playoffs. So, credit him. It hasn't been it hasn't been a straight line.
No, it hasn't been a straight line for a lot of these guys. Like I even look at a guy like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who definitely wasn't immune to criticism at points during this season. He went 20-some games without a 5-on-5 goal at a point in the regular season. And you look at the way he's stepped up. He's the only guy in the top 6 who plays on all 3 power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5. And he came through with a massive 2-goal game. We're calling game 5 the Nuge game here around Oilers Nation. But there were a bunch of guys that stepped up and played their best hockey in kind of, we'll call it the back half of this series. Nuge is one, Nurse is one. And for him, to me, I think Nurse is at his best when he's aggressive. Like when he gets timid and starts laying back and not making those pinches at the blue line and not jumping up in the rush. All of a sudden, he's kind of on his heels the rest of the game.
He had a nice play in the neutral zone where he laid lumber right in Joe Pavelski's ribs, and they kept showing the replay on that. And he's mean. He's got to play mean.
Yeah, he's a prick when he's kind of at his best. So I think there are a bunch of guys who just kept playing better and better as the series went on. Nuge, Nurse. I thought Dylan Holloway was really good again last night, even if he's not scoring, getting into the mix. Connor Brown, Matthias.
Well, that was so. I was gonna let Johnny jump in the next question, but you're already going into it a little bit, Tyler.
Are you stealing it?
Let me ask you about Connor Brown, because Connor Brown is a guy that was ridiculed this year for his goalless drought. Your guys' show, you guys weren't ridiculing him all over Oilers Nation, but it became a running joke at times, like what his contributions were to the Oilers. And I got to tell you something, he's made a lot of sneaky big plays in the playoffs this year. And I know he didn't bury that one breakaway, but he's had a couple of goals, a couple of big assists. And his contributions of being in a bottom 6 role, eliminating, time and space and being physical, and then capitalizing when there's opportunities. I mean, when that's happening, Tyler, that's got to make you feel better about a widely criticized bottom 6 and depth of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and Vic just reminded me, yes, we did create a map of how far Connor Brown had skated across Alberta since scoring a goal. We the NHL Edge website that tells you how far they skate every game, and we did the math.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we definitely gave Connor Brown his shit during the year, but things really flipped for him with like 15 games to go. He finally scored a goal, then he rattled off like 3 in the next 6 games or something like that. And he started to play with, a little bit of swagger, and that's maybe not the right word for a bottom 6 guy, but he was feeling good again, and he was starting to make some plays. And I even threw the question, I think it was with like 5-6 games remaining in the regular season, I threw out, if you could only bring back one between Cory Perry and Connor Brown, who would you bring back? And Oilers fans flamed me. They were not happy that I was even discussing that. But right now, through 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs, there's no doubt which one you'd rather have in your lineup. And it's absolutely Connor Brown. He's been a giant on the penalty kill, chipped in with that big shorthanded assist to Matthias Janmark to finish off the comeback in game 4. And when him and Janmark are out there, man, they push play in the right direction. And last night's going to skew all of their numbers, which is really unfair because everyone on the Oilers got outshot and outchanced. But I still felt like the two of them had some good shifts. And again, the penalty kill contributions can't be overlooked either, because the fact the Oilers didn't allow Dallas to score a single power play goal in this series is absolutely bananas. That's the 6th best power play in the regular season. And the Oilers kept them completely off the board. They outscored them. They scored a shorty. Like it's crazy.
So I wanted to actually build off of that too, just with the coaching and everything that's changed with the Oilers, because we're talking about a team that was in last place in November, and I was telling Colby, I think before you came on, maybe that I don't see this as like the 2019 St. Louis Blues. Like that was a little bit later in the year, not taking anything away from their incredible turnaround, but I'm sitting here as a Ranger fan who, Chris Knobloch was talked about being the Rangers head coach, last year when they were looking for one. Laviolette did an amazing job, but there are Ranger fans now probably kicking themselves knowing that we let a great guy go, and he's in the Stanley Cup final his first year with the Oilers. So can you just tell us what exactly is Knobloch's like message, or what is it that he's brought to this team that has just made it such a complete 180?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that really stand out for me. I also do think, before I get into Knobloch, Paul Coffey can't be overlooked at all. Yeah. Like, I mean, I laughed at that hiring because there's always been this weird sort of underlying story in Edmonton that like Paul Coffey's boys with Daryl Cates. Bob Stauffer even said last night on the radio post-game show that Paul Coffey for a long time was the second most influential man in this organization, because there was always like this, he might be the next GM because him and Cates are so tight. And then when they threw him on the bench, it was like, did Cates just kind of throw his spy onto the bench here and he's trying to just have a, kind of worm in there? But anyways, Paul Coffey's done unbelievable work with the blue line. On to Knobloch. I said for a really long time during the regular season that the Oilers would have turned it around regardless of a coaching change. I think Jay Woodcroft could have led them into the playoffs. But as we've gone through these playoffs, what stood out for me is the risks and the tough choices that Knobloch's made. I don't think Woodcroft would have had the stones to make those moves. Yeah. Like going away from Stuart Skinner, who's been your goalie all year, and playing Calvin Pickard, a 32-year-old who's never started a Stanley Cup playoff game before, with your season on the line. That takes stones. That takes a lot of stones. And last year, Jay Woodcroft just kept rolling out Stuart Skinner. Even though Jack Campbell came in, gave him great relief appearances, they didn't move away from Skinner. Okay, that's one thing right there that Knobloch did that the previous regimes absolutely would not have done. And the other thing he's been great at is he came in, the penalty kill was garbage, and he said, I want to put guys there who it's their identity and they take pride in it. And they're going to love going out there and contributing that to the team on a nightly basis. And what did we see last night? The Oilers' little player of the game awards. One went to Skinner, one went to Connor Brown, because the guy said he was just a dog on the PK, and Connor Brown owns that. Matthias Janmark owns that.
And on plunger, right?
Yeah. The plunger and the plunger. On a team where McDavid and Draisaitl in the power play, like they get to play all 2 minutes on the power play. When the game's tight in the final 5 minutes, they get to play basically the entire final 5 minutes. Finding ways to give every player on this team a bit of an identity, I think, is something Chris Knobloch has done really, really well during his tenure here. And I think we're seeing it pay off so far in the playoffs.
Well, the other thing too, Tyler, that I think I notice a little bit with Knobloch as compared to maybe Woodcroft, and I do actually agree with your premise that I think they would have gotten out of that funk with Jay Woodcroft. I really do. I feel like this Edmonton team is it's a more even keeled group with Knobloch. And when you watch Knobloch on the bench, I never really see big emotional fluctuations out of him. He looks to be very even keeled, and
hair is perfectly coiffed.
I believe, and I'm a huge proponent in this, that players, and teams definitely take on their coach's personality. I think I was a little bit critical of Montgomery earlier in the playoffs, thinking that his team rode a little too much of a roller coaster, because he rides a roller coaster. I've witnessed it with Bruce Cassidy, and Bruce Cassidy has gotten a million times better at it since he got to the NHL. But I remember being in playoff series with him in the American League, and it was just, we could feel his tension, and then things would start to spiral for us. And I do feel like with Knobloch, I don't see things spiral for Edmonton. I feel like they're able to clot blood quicker. I feel like they're able to flip the switch quicker during games. I feel like shift after a goal, whether it's for or against, I notice they seem a little more detailed, a little more thorough. And, their puck management, Tyler, just seems, at a winning playoff level, and not just a let's get into the playoff level.
Yeah, I even think back, you mentioned just being calm after giving up a goal. Remember game 4 against Vancouver? Skinner or Pickard's playing good, and then that puck goes in off a skate. Vancouver ties it up with like 90 seconds left, and Draisaitl even kind of said it, like, we weren't interested in playing overtime. We knew we could get the job done. And they went out there. Bouchard wins it with 30 seconds left. Like, Vancouver was on their heels. They thought they were going to coast into overtime, and the Oilers, put the pedal right back down to the floor after a bad bounce. I think that right there is because a guy like Knobloch, like you said, his calm demeanor behind them is just, he doesn't really let them get rattled. Even last night when like the offense clearly wasn't coming, they still weren't pushing. It's not like they started to take these insane risks. Like, yeah, I'm looking at, the numbers here. Dallas had 28 shots at 5-on-5 in that game. Did they have a single breakaway? And did they, if they had a 2-on-1, it was almost diffused by a back checker. Like, no, I don't think they didn't
make they did not make the buy-in. Connor McDavid said it after the game to the TNT panel. The buy-in, it's there and it's real. And you hear players say that every year, and people probably think it's cliche, but it's not. It isn't. So Tyler, look, I know you don't have a lot of time. The last thing I want to ask you before I'll let Johnny wrap. And
Just
I know
one. I have one quick one after.
Got to get over to another DFO property here, but Cory Perry is been a polarizing guy. He really has, right? And I know earlier in the season, the series, you didn't feel like he had the speed. You felt like, it probably had finally caught up with him. But, look, this guy is now 2020 Cup final with Dallas, 21 with Montreal, 22 with Tampa, 23. Okay, took the year off from the Cup final. Now in 24, back in a Cup final with Edmonton. There's got to be something to having that guy in your depth and getting to the Stanley Cup. Do you feel,
and losing?
Well, I understand that, but again, you're not pointing. This isn't the NBA where players play 48 minutes a night. They play limited amounts of minutes. But what do you think this Cory Perry decision to bring him in by Ken Holland? Like, to me, it looks pretty genius right now.
Yeah, it looked real good in the regular season because he was scoring at a near 20 goal pace, and the Oilers needed some help in the bottom six. And could you say something about the veteran leadership side of it? Yeah, and I even saw him yesterday in the building at one point. I think it was about 15, 16 minutes left in the third period. And he was standing up and he was barking at the guys a little bit. And we saw him during the year get into it with Evander Kane. Like he came in, even though he's a new face, and he keeps guys in check. And I think because of his resume and everything he's done, he's allowed to do that. On the ice, when it comes to actually playing, I don't think you can play him anymore. Like, again, it was a nice little spark for one game, but last night he was god-awful. He can't skate, right? So I'm done with the Perry Draisaitl experiment. If you want to play him because you want the veteran in the lineup, maybe you play him somewhere in the bottom six and try to hide him for 8 minutes a night. But I would make a change there, and I'd have Cory Perry sitting in the room and taking warm-ups with everyone and all that stuff. But again, on the ice, genius. On the ice,
Okay. Fair. Right. Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to need 4 lines against Florida. We saw what they did to New York, with a short bench. So go ahead, Johnny.
No, Tyler, I know you got to go. So just quick, Conn Smythe pick for Edmonton if you're handing it out right now. You don't have to explain.
I got a couple minutes still, so we're good.
Okay.
I'm between Draisaitl and Bouchard, but
I was thinking Bouchard too.
He's just done so much for them on the back end. And when you look at the fact, like, how many of their goals against are a result of some of their defensemen not being able to get the puck out of their zone, and the fact that Bouchard just seemingly does it excellently every single time, like, he puts the puck on the stick of their skill players and lets them go do their thing in the offensive zone. He's scored some massive goals. He's got 5 OT winners in the last 2 playoffs, 3, I believe, already in this run here. And I think that's tied for first, or only Panarin ended up having more than that in these playoffs. So Bouchard has a hell of a case. I think Draisaitl, just because of the name value, will probably get more love.
No Shaq Hyman in there. You don't think he's in that?
There's so many guys.
14 goals, a lot of goals in the playoffs. He's 5 off from the most in a playoff run. And look, if this next series goes 7 games, I very easily see Zach Hyman getting, if they're going to push this,
he could do it in 3 games.
He's going to score 5 goals.
Yeah.
That's an interesting case, but I still think I want it going to maybe one of the drivers. So I think if I had a ballot, it would probably be, at this point, from an Oilers perspective, probably Draisaitl, Bouchard, McDavid, Hyman 4, and probably Skinner 5.
I mean, McDavid, you could just see, I mean, that play that he makes on that goal, what he's able to do in tight spaces there. I mean, he just said, I'm the best player in the world. I'm going to make you miss. It's incredible what that guy can do. It really is.
I was just going to say, it'd be the perfect, I mean, I don't know if Edmonton fans feel this way, but I know, like, maybe the general hockey fan would feel this way. I think it'd be the perfect chef's kiss if Hyman were to break the playoff goal record and win the Conn Smythe and the Oilers win the Cup just because of that stupid fucking video that was made this year. Like, it'd be the perfect thing.
Hey, Edmonton's had their own little viral video going around from.
Listen, that woman is a celebrity in Edmonton now. Her money's not going to be good anywhere.
Someone tweeted, they were like, the Oilers should fly her to Florida and park her right behind the Panthers bench for everything.
If I don't see her on Oilers Nation this week on one of the shows, I'm going to be greatly disappointed. So Tyler, this will not be the last time we're summoning you for an early morning. Now, hopefully you're going to be on the East Coast here soon, and you're going to be in the time zone where then we're really not going to feel bad asking you to come on with us. So look, before we let
he'll
Tyler
be hitting the
go,
elbow room too. He'll be hungover from the elbow room probably.
Before we let Tyler go, especially if you're joining us from Oilers Nation, don't forget, we're all part of the same company here, Oilers Nation, Daily Faceoff. We're all on the same, company, same team. Subscribe to the DFO YouTube page. Tyler's all over the DFO YouTube page. He's the voice of a lot of these different, pages and factions of this company we have. Give our episode a like. That way Tyler has incentive to come back when we tell him, hey man, this was the most liked episode we ever did. Tyler, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say before we let you go, but like I said, we'll be bringing you on again, because as long as the Oilers are playing, and they are going to be one of the last two teams playing, we're going to keep coming back to the well.
Absolutely. And I'll be here every day if it means I get to talk about the Oilers being in the Cup final. Flights to Florida. Go Oilers.
Love it. Thank you, Tyler. We appreciate it.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.